Hello, I'm Cindy McCaslin, and this is my vocabulary lesson plan. It is a first grade lesson. The teacher objective is the teacher will teach the learner how to use pictures and context clues to confirm meaning of unfamiliar words, which is ELA 1-E1. It should take approximately 25 minutes to complete this lesson. The teacher will first review the vocabulary words that we learned from the read aloud that we did the week prior. The vocabulary words are pasture, shade, lonesome, cork, and fierce. The teacher will ask the following assessment questions to the class as a whole. Who can raise their hand and tell me what the word pasture means? And hopefully a student will raise their hand and say a field or area of land where cows graze, etc. And I'll say, who can raise their hand and tell me something that would be an example of shade? And hopefully a student would raise their hand and tell me under a tree or something of that nature, or anything that's shady. And I will also ask them, will someone please raise their hand and use the word fierce in a sentence? And they could say, all of Ferdinand's bull friends love to act fierce, or any other word with fierce in it. The overview of this lesson, the purpose and importance is to extend the learner's knowledge of oral and printed words and their meanings where they will have a productive vocabulary and to aid in successful reading comprehension. Another reason it is important is to foster word consciousness, which is an awareness and interest in words, which will also help to develop a love for reading and writing. The continuity, yesterday we identified words and categories with shared conceptual or definitional characteristics. Today we will use pictures and context clues to confirm meanings of unfamiliar words. And tomorrow we will identify grade-appropriate compound words in print. The objective is the learner will use pictures and context clues to confirm meaning of unfamiliar words. For my motivation, I will introduce the new vocabulary words from the book that we're going to read today. The vocabulary words are bayou, muggy, concocted, clods, and encircled. I'll put the vocabulary words on the board one at a time and ask the class if they know or if they think they know what the words mean. And the pictures I'll put on the words, I'll have this on a Word document, but I just printed it out for this presentation. But there would be a picture of a bayou, a picture of muggy, the man sweating. For concocted, I have a picture of a frog thanking. For clods, I have the dirt, and for encircled, I have a picture of something making a circle around that object. I'll put those vocabulary words on the board and ask if they know the definitions of them. I'll listen to the definitions that they give, and then I'll tell the class that today we're going to be reading a book named Why the Crawfish Lives in the Mud. I will tell the students to listen for the vocabulary words while I'm reading the story, and then I will read the book Why the Crawfish Lives in the Mud. Why the Crawfish Lives in the Mud, written and illustrated by Jonette Downing. Long ago in the waters of the bayou, the crab and the crawfish used to be best friends. That is, until one hot, muggy day when Crawfish was feeling more lazy than usual. Crawfish was getting hungry, but he would not budge an inch to find a meal for himself. Then Crawfish heard a loud commotion and saw a crab carrying a fish he had just caught in his claws. Suddenly Crawfish had the envie, the craving for fish, which caused another loud racket in his hungry stomach. Crawfish rubbed his belly, thought for a moment, concocted a plan, and said, "Sure's the hot one, eh, Crab?" "That it is," replied Crab, balancing the fish in one claw and wiping the sweat of hard work from his brow with the other. "That fish sure looks good," said Crawfish. "Yes, indeed it does," said Crab. Why did Claire, you are just too strong to carry such a small fish as that," said Crawfish. "A small fish?" asked Crab. "Oh, yeah, Shaw," replied Crawfish mockingly. "As strong as you are, you probably can't even feel that small, teeny fish you got yourself there. Now, one of those big fish down the bayou would give you a run for your money." "Big fish? Bigger than this one?" asked Crab. "Oh, yes, much bigger than that small, tiny, itsy-bitsy fish you got yourself there. Boo-coo, much bigger. Now that big fish down the bayou would be some fine eating for you." "Yes, indeed, some fine eating," answered Crawfish. Crab looked up at his catch of the day, and suddenly it didn't feel so heavy, and it didn't look so big. Lazy Crawfish laid it on thick again and said, "Of course that small, tiny, itsy-bitsy, puny fish you got yourself there would be fine eating for a weak little crawfish like me. But you're so big and strong, you would need something bigger, much bigger. But c'est la vie, that's life, I guess. I'll go get that big fish down the bayou and try to drag it home. I'll probably hurt my back in the trying." Crab put down his dinner and said, "Oh no, I wouldn't want you to hurt yourself, dear friend Crawfish. Here, you take my little fish, and I'll go down the bayou and get that big fish." "You would do that for me?" asked Crawfish, hiding his devious grin. "Sure I would," said Crab as he handed his dinner to Crawfish and marched down the bayou. There's Crab going down the bayou to look for the big fish. Crawfish laughed and laughed at the foolish Crab. "Ha, ha, ha, I've outsmarted that silly Crab again," said Crawfish. He laughed so hard he turned red all over. Then Crawfish ate until he could eat no more, rubbed his full tummy, and took a long nap in the hot southern sun. Click, click, click. Suddenly Crawfish heard a sound. Click, click, click. The sound came again, but this time it was closer and louder. Crawfish woke from his nap to find an angry Crab standing over him, clicking his mighty claws together. Crab yelled, "You lazy coon-eyed trickster! I walked up and down the bayou looking for that big fish and found none." Crawfish backed up a little, because he could tell that Crab was some furious. Crab said, "You played another dirty trick and made a fool out of me for the last time." Crawfish backed up a little more. He had never seen Crab this angry before. Crab continued, "And to think I gave you my dinner because I felt sorry for you." Crawfish backed up a little more, and trying to compose himself, he said, Misha, I'm just cooyin', crazy. There's no need for you to be so crabby." Crab replied, "Crabby? Why should I should throw you in the mud for pulling such a dirty trick on me." "Oh no, not the mud. I don't like the mud," said Crawfish. "I'll get stuck in the mud and never get out. Anything, oh anything but the mud." Now frightened Crawfish was backing away from Crab so fast and flicking his fantail so frantically that he unknowingly dug a deep tunnel in the mud and fell into it with a plop. Clods of mud encircled the tunnel's entrance, and Crawfish burrowed inside was hidden from sight. Crab couldn't believe his eyes. "Well, I'll be. What goes around comes around," said Crab. "I guess you've outsmarted yourself this time and got exactly what you deserve. Now the mud will be your home forever." And to this day, the crawfish, also known as the mudbug, lives in the mud to keep away from angry Crab. The end. After I read this story, I'll begin with my first activity. My first activity will be a word poster activity with the whole class. I'll divide the class into 5 groups. Each group will be given one of the 5 vocabulary words. I'll copy the definitions onto the smartboard beside the vocabulary word pictures that I put up during the motivation. And these are the definitions out to the side. For bayou, I have a marshy or swampy body of water, usually found in the southern United States, and usually in Louisiana or Mississippi. Muggy, I have unpleasantly hot and humid, sticky, sweaty. For concocted, I have made or prepared. For clods, I have lumps of dirt, soil, or clay. And for encircle, I have to make a circle around something or to surround it. I'll have each group create a word poster for their given vocabulary word. They will write the word at the top of the poster in large letters. They will then copy the definition from the board onto their poster. After that, the group will get together and draw a picture related to their vocabulary word and write the word or a word from the same word family across the bottom of the poster in a sentence. I'll walk around the room during the word poster activity to assist the students with understanding and give them any help that they need. And for my second activity, I'll be doing a word map activity with the class to develop their vocabulary knowledge. I will pass out a word map to each group. And here's an example of a word map that I did that I'll be putting on the smartboard as well. I'll put the blank word map up on the smartboard. I will fill in the word map as an example along with the class during the word map activity. The learners will write a vocabulary word in the center box on the word map as instructed by the teacher. And they'll do one vocabulary word per word map. So each group will have 5 of the word maps. I will ask the students to raise their hand if they remember the definition of the word. I will then have the students write their definitions in the area in the upper left-hand corner. And for this one I have bayou. So in the definition in the own words, I have a marshy body of water. I will then ask if anyone can raise their hand and tell me what a synonym for bayou is. And then they'll write their synonym in the upper right hand corner, and I have marsh or swamp. I'll then ask the class if anyone knows a sentence that they can use that vocabulary word in, and at that time I'll write my sentence on my copy on the smartboard. And my sentence for bayou is, when we went to New Orleans, we saw a big bayou. And then I'll have the students draw a picture of the vocabulary word or a picture of something they think of when they think about the vocabulary word in the bottom right hand corner. And I will then repeat the above steps for the 4 remaining vocabulary words. After this, I'll do the closure, and I'll close the lesson by reinforcing the vocabulary words by asking the following assessment questions. I will ask, what is the definition of a bayou? Which is remembering. And hopefully the student will say, a swampy body of water found in the south, etc. Can you tell me what a muggy day would feel like? Which is the understanding question, and hopefully they'll say, it would be hot and I would be sweaty, or etc. I'll then ask, can you think of another word that means about the same thing as concocted? Which is an applying question, and they should say made, prepared, etc. For homework, the learner will complete a vocabulary matching worksheet, which is this matching worksheet. The vocabulary words are listed at the bottom: bayou, encircle, muggy, clods, and concocted, and the definitions are up here, and they'll just write the word in the blank beside the definition. Early finishers, the learner will complete the vocabulary word search, and this is the word search, and once again the vocabulary words are just listed across the bottom, and they could highlight them with their yellow highlighter or another color up here in the word search. For special needs, the students with a reading disability will work in a small group with a teacher or a paraprofessional to create a word poster and or a word map. English language learners will work in a small group with a teacher to create a word poster and or word map. And for both of those activities, they would use the book Why the Crawfish Lives in the Mud, and they would use a word map and or a word poster. For remediation, students will work with the teacher in a small group to work on making word maps. The teacher will use the read aloud book and a dictionary to help the students with the activity. For enrichment, students will write the vocabulary words on a sheet of paper and come up with an anonym for each vocabulary word. And for that, they'll use a sheet of paper, a pencil, and a dictionary if needed. And that would be formal assessment. Thank you.